our surroundings, but the focus is always the same. And let's get to that. When last we met, if this is the first time you've seen us since the holiday, but certainly at the end of last year, we know that the Prime Minister was in a world of trouble. He, of course, had the Minister for Freebies, and she was on the ropes, her own spending, as well as several other members using other people's money to live the high life. We also know that the Prime Minister, well, didn't do well when it came to Bondi, and it felt like it was a major stain on the Prime Ministership many months after winning so handsomely at the last election. And then there's, of course, the economy, where just last week, inflation now goes to almost 4%. Remember, the band it's supposed to sit in is between 2 and 3%. For it to be hitting up towards 3.8, close to 4%, means there's a very good chance there's about to be a rate rise. Now, remember, one of the reasons why this government was able to get back in the game at the start of last year, before the election, was when the very same meeting 12 months ago cut interest rates. 12 months later, it is about to, presumably, increase them. It is going to be a very difficult week. And it should still be a difficult week for the Prime Minister, but, of course, the action is on the other side of the Parliament. The behaviour of the leadership of both the Liberal and National Party and its members has given essentially a free kick to the Prime Minister. You all know the details. But this is kind of like the hokey pokey, right? You put your MPs in, you put your shadow ministers out, and all of it gets the Prime Minister to a place where he is now so confident as he starts this parliamentary year officially tomorrow that he was at the tennis on the weekend. He completely avoided it in 2025 because he knew it was a bad look going into an election. He knew it was particularly bad look this year after the Annika Wells of it all. But no, there he was on Saturday cheering on the semi-finalists making it towards tonight's final. But of course, the difficulty of the coalition not being a coalition anymore is that there are going to be major changes when you see Parliament sit this week. Now, unless something is miraculously going to happen, and there is no indication of that taking place, you are going to have Susan Lee and the Liberals behind her, but then the National Party will be nowhere on the opposition front benches. Instead, they will be down into teal territory. The opposition split doubles the size of the crossbench from 14 to 28 people. Equal that to the number of Liberal MPs, and it will necessitate changes in the chamber, where the Liberals and Nationals have sat together for decades. A draft plan is expected to propose that the Liberal assistant ministers move to fill the gaps on the front bench. So it's not even going to be the starting 11 or starting 15 or starting 13, depending on what particular sport that you like here, or starting 15, if you like that form of football. Instead, there'll be a couple of Liberal backbenchers. They'll sit in behind Susan Lee because they'll be the ones nodding on television. Then there's going to be a little bit of a break, and then you're going to start to see, well, again, the crossbench. Everything from the scenario where you've got Barnaby Joyce, used to be, late last year, the Nationals MP, now the One Nation sole lower house MP, along with the Teals, along with Katter, along with Wilkie, and along with the rest of the Nationals. Tony Burke, who is the leader of the House, not just, of course, the Minister responsible for Home Affairs and the shambles that are things like immigration. But he is in part in charge of who sits where. And he says today that he never occurred to him that when Barnaby Joyce went to join the crossbench, the entire National Party would move to the crossbench with him. The crossbench is now as big as the opposition. We're working out what that'll mean. It is a big shift. What this means, of course, is that there is going to be a significant number of changes also behind the scenes. You see, already because of their reduced number after the election, the number of staff that the opposition had to put together its alternative government policies, well, that had already been shaved. Now, if the size of the opposition goes down to just 28 MPs and the collective everyone else is also 28, well, then the staff is going to move around as well. So all of this means one of the consequences of the coalition breaking up is their capacity to even come up with the ideas to be able to take on a government, let alone to hold them to account. Well, it has effectively been halved. It makes things even easier for a terrible government that, despite all of the things that I just mentioned, including an interest rate rise happening 1 year after the interest rate cut that helped them get returned as the government, well, they get to say this and it's enough to feed a news cycle.
Well, it's going to be a shambles on the other side of the Parliament. That's the only thing that you can be sure of. There's a small opposition now of barely 28 members, and that is split right down the middle between Susan Lay's supporters and Angus Taylor supporters.
So it's going to be tough.